couple of times. Hell, I only unlocked the door at the Lufthansa heist. I wasn't involved hardly at all. I was barely even there.
Well, let's clarify this point, Rojo, because it's not exactly exonerating the statement you've made. Let me read. During a recent interview, and we've got some of the sound, we'll play it for you in a minute. Between Rojo and WISN Television's Matt Smith, who asked Johnson if he would agree to speak to the January 6th committee. No, I had nothing to do with January 6th, Johnson said. If they asked you to testify, would you, Smith wondered? What would they ask me to testify about, Johnson? The Republican elector, Smith noted, referring to the fake slate of electors that Johnson had asked to deliver to then Vice President Mike Pence in an effort to steal the election from Joe Biden. Again, another grotesque distortion, Rojo complained. I had nothing to do with the alternative slate. I have no idea anybody was going to ask me to deliver those. My involvement in that attempt to deliver spanned the course of a couple of seconds. Oh, can't be guilty if it's just a couple of seconds. Just a moment on the lips. The senator said that he fielded 3 texts and sent 2. Well, that's more than a couple of seconds already. Just while the 3 little dots are going. Well, that part, just the waiting. Sometimes, Tom, the waiting's the hardest part.
Isn't it, though?
The senator said that he fielded 3 texts, sent 2, and talked to my chief of staff that somebody wanted to deliver something. I knew nothing about it, he added. Well, that's the same excuse when we asked him why he never investigated the hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. Well, I knew nothing about it.
I know nothing.
Like Sergeant Schultz. Rojo went on to add, in the end, those electors were not delivered because we found out from the vice president's staff they didn't want them delivered. End of story. I know that it's been blown out of proportion. You think so? Smith reminded. Johnson insisted that it was wrong to look at the plot to overturn the election as a massive conspiracy. I had virtually no involvement.
Right, which means you had virtually some involvement. Even a couple of minutes, hell, even a couple of seconds. It doesn't matter the timing, man. I mean, if your hand is on the weapon, on the bloody knife, you are involved.
It only takes a second to create a smoking gun, Dom.
Yeah.
As Rojo is quoted here, I had virtually no involvement. Literally, my involvement lasted seconds. Okay, question mark? Like, okay, will you stop asking? Johnson initially denied having knowledge of the alternative electors. Didn't he, though? Didn't he? So anyways, Dom, let's play some of the sound for our fair audience. You don't hate to rob them of the opportunity to hear Rojo's sound now that we don't invite him on this fine show for interviews anymore. Here he is, Ron Johnson, U.S. Senator from Wisconsin, with Matt Smith. So here's a question. Rojo, why a third term? Because you promised the devil's advocates you were done at 2. Play for the people, cut 1.
Because our nation's literally being torn apart. It was my very strong preference, my wife's very, very, very strong preference to serve out that second term and go home. But even I did not anticipate the disaster that the Biden administration would be and Democrat policies and Democrat governance would be.
You want me on that wall.
Senate President Biden said that they're going to fundamentally transform this country. I always ask, do you even like, much less love, something you want to fundamentally transform? But
now Democrats don't like?
No, they're leaders. No, I this country. How could they not?
Well,
I mean,
caught in another faux not Democrats. They're
not the rank and file, not the independent. Just they're leaders. They're leaders, and essentially what he's saying, it's so bad. I mean, there's a couple of ways to look at this. Number one, the country's being torn apart. Yes, a big part of that is the former guy spreading this big lie and him not allowing the peaceful transfer of power and the resulting January 6th insurrection, of which, Rojo, you were a part, be it a couple of minutes, be it a couple of seconds, you were part of that conspiracy, whether you like to admit it or not.
Well, let's not forget, Rojo was one of the ones that objected right away, right from the top. When he objecting to the slate of electors from Arizona, right? That was the plan. Him and Ted Cruz and a few others, they were going to object right from the top. And as they're objecting, people were storming the castle. And then a little bit later, Rojo lost his courage. But maybe he lost his courage later for the later objection, Dom, because we never knew before that someone was trying to feed the vice president a slate of false electors. And Rojo, at least for a couple of seconds,
Was the mule.
minded was willing to participate in a coup against democracy. That's quite a confession, even for a couple of seconds, Rojo.
I only swallowed the drugs for a couple of seconds.
Only snorted the line for a couple of.
He's a mule, man. He's a mule. That's exactly what he was.
You know, mules go to prison too. Cut number 2, more Rojo looking to define himself and Mandela Barnes.
In this race, it's a very clear choice. You can vote for somebody like myself who voted against all the massive deficit spending that sparked the 40-year high inflation. Or you can vote for somebody who supports that, supports the tax increases in the last bill, supports low bail. That was a policy that, let's face it, that let out the Waukesha Christmas parade massacre murderer. Okay, so there's a clear choice.
That's clearly Mandela Barnes' fault.
The policies that myself and Mandela Barnes support.
Okay, more
No,
from.
I mean, but he's very right on the tax issue, right? Because I mean, it was Rojo that shepherded through that change in the tax laws that gave his donors $250 million in tax relief, right? So there's a contrast, and apparently Mandela's down with taxing corporations at least 15% when some of them pay 0 to 1 to 2% on billions of dollars in income. Yeah, I think there's a difference there.
Dominic, it was $215 million that the U-Lines and the widows Hendricks saved, but that was for one singular tax year.
Okay.
Accumulating, it's probably up closer to $1 billion by now, Dom.
Well, thank you for the clarity, Michael.
Yeah, I want to make sure we get it accurately.
Of course.
Here's the question of Rojo. Democrats paint you as a rich guy who wants to cut tax breaks for billionaires while you and your friends gamble with Social Security. Here's how Rojo responds. Cut 3.
It's completely false characterization. It's a grotesque distortion. Of the two candidates, I'm the guy that did work shift work all the way through college and paid my way through college. Then when I started my business, we traded off, say 12-hour shifts. It was more like 16-hour shifts as we got the operation running and hired supervisors. I started working at my first tax-paying job at the age of 15. I know I've been in manufacturing for 30 years. I know full well the struggles that Wisconsinites are having based on these Democrat policies. But one of the most grotesque distortions is the tax cut I got for 95% of American businesses. All the Main Street businesses, all the little guys that have to compete against the C Corps, that's what I accomplished. Even under, again, Republican tax reform, they were going to leave behind 95% of American businesses, except I said, no, I'm not. I was very independent. I took all the guff from, in some cases, Wisconsin Talk Radio. Certainly I got the snarly phone calls from the Oval Office. They weren't happy with me. But I stood my ground, and as a result, those Main Street businesses also got a tax cut. More than 20 million tax filers took advantage of that. It wasn't a deal for me and a couple rich buddies. I mean, that's a grotesque and dishonest distortion. Cut for 95% of American businesses to allow them to compete with the big guys and survive the pandemic. I'm very proud of that achievement.
Thank you, Rojo. When you say 95% of Americans, you mean what? 95% of American small businesses, apparently. Because it's a smaller number, and I'm amongst them. I'm a designated S.
Yeah, talking about LLCs, S Corps, right.
Ron came down and bragged all about that tax cut he gave us. Had to hold out for more than a few minutes.
So that accumulating maybe up to $1 billion that the U-Lines got and the widow Hendricks that they received, all those other people added up. Do you think they got even close to that? I mean, if you save $10 and they got 10 million, do you think that's an equivalency?
Well, over the course of years, I'm sure I've saved at least a couple of thousand. Come back with us. 10 seconds to love. Rojo, if he lasted that long, that would be a minor miracle. More devils on the other side.
They'll know what you did.
Yeah, I was not involved in this at all, you know. So I don't know why you're even asking the questions. So why don't you just leave me alone?
Excuse me. Pardon?
Getting lost in a city you always wanted to visit.
Pardon, madame. Pardon? S'il vous plaît. Je cherche un restaurant. Merci.
Getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed.
This is so cool.
Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
You recall the Capitol insurrection? A post-ABC News poll showed 54% said Trump should be criminally charged for inciting the riot. That's like a litany of criminal allegations against the former president. You can say it's all partisanship and a witch hunt, but there wasn't one credible accusation against Obama during his entire 8-year term. So how Republicans just ignore all the evidence? I mean, he was perpetrating a coup on multiple levels.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Taking your kids to their first baseball game. Getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Save the $2 on tomorrow's paper. Listen to the Devil's Advocates today.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines always open for our fair audience, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, want to go back to the Rojo interview? WISN, Matt Smith, the question asker. And I like the tone of the questions Matt's asking. So let's get back to him. Cut number 4 here, if we could. Matt Smith asked Rojo, is this race a referendum on your time in the Senate?
Yes.
Could it be? Cut 4.
No, I had nothing to do with January 6th.
If they asked you to testify, though, would you?
What would they ask me to testify about?
The Republican electors.
I got the wrong one, so we're going to save that, and we're going to listen to the one you asked for.
There we go.
Referendum on Democrat policies and
The Biden administration?
I think so.
There's a lot of issues that could come between now and November outside of your control and the campaign's control. The January 6th committee is scheduling more hearings likely in September.
Let's jump to Rojo's speechifying, pontificating on the January 6th, and they don't want me, right? Cut 5.
No, I had nothing to do with January 6th.
If they asked you to testify, though, would you?
What would they ask me to testify about?
The Republican electors and the slate.
Again, it's another grotesque distortion. I had nothing to do with the alternate slate. I had no idea that anybody was going to ask me to deliver those. My involvement in that attempt to deliver spanned the course of a couple seconds. I think I fielded 3 texts and sent 2 and talked to my chief of staff that somebody wants you to deliver something. Yeah, I knew nothing about it. And in the end, those electors were not delivered because we found out from Vice President's staff they didn't want them delivered. End of story. Again, I know that's been blown out of proportion.
You think so?
The January 6th committee didn't. And they blew this into like some, massive conspiracy. Again, I had like virtually no involvement. Literally, my involvement lasted seconds. Okay.
Sorry about the kids. like the creation of the kids lasted virtually seconds.
Well, listen, of course, this is a referendum on his time in office. I mean, there's no question. He's been there 12 years. You said you weren't running again, and now you're still there, and you helped participate, you at least by your own volition, at least a couple of seconds in the coup and the conspiracy to overthrow the United States government. Damn right it is a referendum on your time in the Senate.
Well, Matt Smith asked a very logical follow-up question. Best interview of Rojo since like September of 2020 when he was last on this fine program. But he said, well, if the VP staff hadn't said don't deliver them, would you have? Let's see how Rojo answers that question. Cut number 6.
President, in what way could have I? Again, we did our due diligence. So somebody handed us something. We're supposed to deliver to the vice president. Does he want it? Nope. Okay, end of story. That was it.
That's not due diligence. The guy said no. He said, no, you're more than willing to deliver. Due diligence would have been to say, these are false electors. That's a crime. I'm not handing off this piece of criminality. Right, that would have been a different form of due diligence.
Like actual due diligence.
Well, Matt Smith did get on to a couple of the issues that may affect Rojo in his race. Cut number 7, should there be a federal ban on abortion? How'd Rojo answer? Cut 7.
It should be decided by we the people in each individual state. And I've said repeatedly, the decision that has to be made on a state-by-state basis is at what point does society have the responsibility to protect life? And again, I have my views, but I didn't want 9 Supreme Court justices to decide that for everybody. I really don't want 535 members of Congress to decide that for the nation. I really want the people, through their elected representatives in the state, to decide that on a state-by-state basis.
Why can't they decide it on an individual-by-individual basis?
Right, exactly. That's the best way to do it. If you don't like abortions, don't have one.
Cut number 8. Do you support codifying the protections for gay marriage, Rojo? Play it. 8.
I mean, that bill is completely unnecessary. The decision on gay marriage will never be overturned. It's completely different than Roe v. Wade and the Dobbs decision. This is where stare decisis would be decisive. I do not see the Supreme Court.
But it wasn't in Roe.
Overturning that, because that would impact millions of people that have been acted on that. Roe v. Wade and the Dobbs decision was proactive. It's protecting life in the future. So again, this is just Democrats, opening up a wound that had really healed. I've always been supportive of civil unions. The Supreme Court, ruled on gay marriage, and it's okay. That's the decision. Let's move on.
That was 2014. That was 8 years ago. Roe was 50 years ago, and that was overturned. Just remind the people.
Let's just move on. You stop asking me questions now.
A little bit more. Rojo, what's Trump's impact in Wisconsin? And do you love the man? You love the man, don't you, Rojo? Cut number 9.
First of all, my election's about me running as a U.S. Senator, dealing with the issues that are impacting Wisconsin. Can you remove Trump from that? I don't personally think Trump should have any impact whatsoever on this election with 2022. What he does in the future, that's a decision he's going to make. I understand why people want to always keep bringing him in, but again, this is about Wisconsinites, about how they are suffering under Democrat governance, Democrat policies, the higher inflation, the record gas prices, the open borders. I mean, I can keep doing that litany. That's what this election's about.
Yeah, you keep doing the litany, okay. So anyways, he's running away from Donald Trump. Sort of a new tack from U.S. Senator Ron Johnson from the state of Wisconsin. He was a big Trump embracive guy, and then some new Marquette University Law School polling dropped. He's trailing Mandela by about 7. Mandela Barnes, the Democrats' choice for the U.S. Senate. And then also the Foxy News. Well, hell, he's even trailing in that one by about 4. And when you look at the favorable, unfavorable for Rojo, I mean, he's drowning, man. He is way underwater. Marianas Trench kind of underwater.
Hey, he only supported Trump in the coup for just a couple of seconds. So it's all good. It's a referendum on the Democrats, not on 12 years of Rojo.
I think Rojo is about as popular as the anchovies on the pizza. That one guy throws them on the last second. Nobody likes it. That's Rojo. You're the anchovies. Come back, John Nichols. He's the pepperonis on this pizza. For the big Monday edition, our good friend John Nichols from the Cap Times, from the Nation. Your phone calls, they could also play a part. 844-967-2789.
I love you. I don't know, but I'm suspicious. I am once again asking you to listen to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM. I believe they have the moral fiber to create a progressive movement in Wisconsin and indeed in America.
The real estate market in Dane County and surrounding areas has been a bit of a hot mess this year. Listings are being picked off above asking prices and without the home inspection contingencies. I'm Todd Osborne, owner of Orion Inspections, and even if I weren't a home inspector, I'd still cringe a little if any of my friends or family tried to buy a home without an inspection. Let's take a good hard look at that house before you sign. Want to know more? I'm here to help. OrionInspections.com. That's Orion, like the constellation, inspections.com.
I'm Kirk Bankstad, and I own the Minocqua Brewing Company in Deep Red, northern Wisconsin, and I have a super PAC. We make good
check 1 2
radio ads and calls to voters in northern Wisconsin. We target federal and state elections, think Ron Johnson and Tom Tiffany, and concentrate on a fair
check 1 2 check 1 2.
A donation now if you're able at the MinocquaBrewingCompany.com Super PAC tab. Help us make the politics of the North Woods as clean as our lakes and streams. That's the MinocquaBrewingCompany.com Super.
Can you hear me? I can't hear you though.
Can you hear me? You got me now?
Okay, I can turn my volume up. Check. We're okay? You can hear me?
I got you. And no echo?
And no echo.
Bro, okay, we got it. We're in good shape. Thanks so much, Dom.
All right, man. I guess I can just disconnect this thing. This is something to see.
Couple of weeks, our little Gizmo was acting like a puppy again. His coat was shinier, he had a lot less scratching and shedding, and he seemed like his happy old self.
My dog smelled and scratched constantly. We bathed and sprayed her, took her to the vet, but no results. Now, a little Dynovite in her food helps Bella keep her beautiful coat with no scratching or smell.
Get 10% off your next order of Dynovite nutritional supplements for dogs at Dynovite.com. Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynovite.
For Civic Media, I'm Jay Natnair with your headlines. The U.S. Department of Justice has joined a lawsuit filed by 4 Wisconsin residents with disabilities to ensure they're able to get help casting their ballots. The 4 maintain federal voting provisions supersede state law, even though a recent state Supreme Court ruling left Wisconsin absentee voting procedures in question. The court ruled absentee ballots must be delivered by mail or in person to a local clerk's office or a designated alternate site, and that no one but the voter can return his or her ballot in person. In court filings, the plaintiffs say many Wisconsinites with disabilities simply cannot vote if they don't get help from someone to either mail their ballot or deliver it in person. Partly cloudy today, high 80. Partly cloudy tonight, low 59. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM, WTTN 1580 AM.
%of the time, they're right every time. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We welcome back a fine guest live via phone. He is John Nichols from the Nation, from the Cap Times, friend of ours, John, welcome back, man.
Hey, John.
Hey, guys. How did I merit the Hawaii 5-0 theme?
I'm not exactly sure, Dano, but we'll roll it.
And it's a kick-in version. I think it's a cover. I'm not sure. But it sounded like a little bit edgier, which is always good.
Well, we like edgy around here. John Nichols, let me ask you, is it edgy to participate in a coup d'etat, but only for a few seconds?
Well, I mean, I guess first and foremost, in Ron Johnson's defense, yeah, I guess it's better to do it only for a few seconds than for months. So you might say that, but it doesn't change the fact that Ron Johnson, in an interview apparently, outside a cream puff booth at a fair, admitted that he was actively involved in seditious conspiracy, i.e. to deliver lists of fake electors from Wisconsin and Michigan to the Vice President of the United States on the day that the President of the United States at that time wanted Pence to engage in an effort to replace the legitimate electors with the illegitimate electors. So we kind of have a situation now where Ron Johnson has placed himself at the center of conspiracy. And yet he says, but I don't need to testify before the January 6th committee because I don't know anything about it except that I was involved with it for a few seconds and sent some texts and made some calls. And I just do one final element here too. Who knew that Ron Johnson was a super fast texter?
Well, I know, man. Just waiting for that 3 dots just for a response like, hey, I got these fraudulent Trump electors I'd like to deliver to the vice president. And then they've got to think about it. And then you see the 3 dots for a while. I mean, it's more than seconds. It's minutes at minimum.
Yeah, what about the excuse that he's providing? Number one, the time frame, which of course is absolutely irrelevant, be it for a few hours, a few months, or a few seconds. But also, he did not know what the contents of the box was. Right? This is what he's telling you. It's like you're trying to get through the airport with with some drugs in your baggage. Oh, I didn't know that was in there. I mean, that's essentially what he's saying. He didn't know that's what it was. Do you buy it, John?
Well, here's where the problem comes in. Okay. So, Ron Johnson says the office is contacted about this, right? And he has his aide contact the vice president. So Johnson himself has his aide contact the vice president's office to say they've got a package they want to give. They got something they want to give to the vice president. Vice president's aide then comes back and says, what is it? And they say, alternate lists of electors from Wisconsin and Michigan. That we know to be the fact. Well, how did the aide know that if, Ron Johnson's the one telling him to do it, right? I mean, one presumes that at that point, Ron Johnson knew that they were talking about lists of what we would call fake electors. I mean, I don't see how else it works in that scenario. And so one fears that Ron Johnson has not thought his lie through as thoroughly as he should have. But then there's one more element on all this as well. Once the communications are going in all this, right, and it's actually coming out in this detailed way, it brings up a whole bunch of other questions. Who was it that contacted Ron Johnson and or his office about this? Who said they wanted to deliver these materials? Was it perhaps a Wisconsinite? Was it somebody Ron Johnson knew? Is it a lawyer who's involved in this? I mean, all of this stuff becomes incredibly significant to figuring out whether Donald Trump was personally aware of and engaged with this effort to deliver the names of the fake electors. So by any measure, Ron Johnson knows things that are relevant to the January 6th investigation, and yet he is saying he doesn't want to testify because he knows nothing. It doesn't add up.
Well, he was also sort of a prime witness to the quid pro quo under the first impeachment. And he, still voted to acquit the man. But John Nichols, our fine guest. John, what about the traditional issues not involving, Ron Johnson's sort of underlying insurrectionist nature? I mean, you just look at the straight polling. Ron ain't doing so well. The people of Wisconsin seemingly are starting to see through the clown show here. John, sorry.
Don't confuse us, my friend.
My bad.
Anyways, look, here's the deal. Ron Johnson got by in his first 2 election cycles, which were good years for Republicans, by being a blank slate, right? In his first campaign, nobody knew who he was. He was just a guy with an R after his name. In his second cycle, people knew very little more about him. Remember, polling in 2016 showed that the overwhelming majority of Wisconsinites knew absolutely nothing about Ron Johnson. And he was able, in both those campaigns, to make himself into a blank slate where, he had enough advertising, enough communication that things came together for him. He spent a lot of money, and his supporters spent a lot of money. This cycle's different. People do know who Ron Johnson is. And they know, he's been involved in these conspiracy theories. He's been involved with, kind of crazy theories about how to, vaccinate or not vaccinate yourself, and how to deal with COVID, with all sorts of patent medicines and stuff like that. So he's got quite a reputation here. And now, as voters start to ponder that, he's trailing. In fact, Mandela Barnes has moved to a majority position, 51%, for the first time in, this campaign. He's in a very, very good position. Strong numbers among Democrats and also independents. And one thing that I've been noting, I'm sure you guys, being the election geeks that you are, might have noted this as well. 16% of Republican primary voters didn't vote for Ron Johnson.
Yeah, they voted for Schrader. We didn't even know he had a primary opponent.
Didn't know how to pronounce his name. And the guy got 110,000 votes. And more power to him. I'm sure he's more competent than Ron Johnson. But the bottom line is that Mr. Schroeder, as best we can tell, had one interview, one major media interview during the campaign, which was a Wisconsin Eye interview, and better than Ron Johnson, but I'm not sure how many people actually saw it. And then on top of that, he, as best I can tell, because I was interested in this guy getting 110,000 votes, which, by the way, was more than several of the candidates, supposedly legitimate Republican candidates for lieutenant governor, more than Tim Rampton got in the race for governor. And I thought, this guy must have spent some money. But as best we can tell, he spent so little money he didn't have to file a campaign finance report against Ron Johnson, who spent $15 million. And so I think Ron Johnson might even have a little bit of problem in his own party.
No, I think he absolutely does, John. And let's not forget, once upon a time, and you talked about the prior elective cycles. Well, in 2018, when Scott Walker was on the ballot and Tammy Baldwin was on the ballot, Tammy Baldwin got 100,000 more votes as a U.S. senatorial candidate than Evers did when he defeated Walker. So here's my question, John. Theoretically, Mandela is a much stronger candidate against a much more vulnerable Republican in the current sense. Could we see some ticket splitting in this race?
It's possible, but I have to be truthful with you. I don't think Wisconsin is as much of a ticket splitting state as it historically was. I think that's been, dwindling to some extent. Tammy Baldwin was an incredibly strong candidate who had literally, been to every corner of the state and done some tremendous work in her first term as a senator. So 18 being a good year for Democrats, a lot of things fell her way from her own work and also from the nature of the national mood at the time. So I'm not sure that Mandela Barnes is going to have, that big a boost. What I will tell you is this. There is simply no question Mandela Barnes can win this race. His numbers are good at this point. His primary numbers against, admittedly, most of his opponents dropped out. But remember, Mandela Barnes is a guy whose opponents had spent $25 million in the race against him, roughly $25 million. And many of them dropped out, or all the ones that dropped out after early voting had begun. And also, he still had several active opponents who were spending a reasonable amount of money and campaigning. And the guy got, close to 80% of the vote in the primary. That's relatively equivalent to what Ron Johnson got on his side. And I just think Mandela Barnes is, looking to be a very, very strong candidate. And these poll numbers reflect that. It doesn't mean that it should be taken for granted, however, because the fact is the Republicans are never going to give up on this race, on this Senate race. They can't afford, there's no way that they can afford to lose Ron Johnson's seat, right? And have a hope of taking control of the Senate. So, right up till, November, there's going to be a huge amount of negative advertising attacking Mandela Barnes, undoubtedly more than you saw in the 2018 cycle attacking Tammy Baldwin. And so it's going to be an ugly, difficult, and complex race. But at the end of the day, by any measure I can see, I just think that Mandela Barnes can and very probably will win.
Folks are listening to the Devil's Advocate radio show. John Nichols, our friend, associate editor of the Cap Times, and of course with the Nation as well. John, it was the Cap Times article that caught my attention. Wanted to get your take on that. Liz Cheney got her ass handed to her at her election the other day, and she kind of compared herself to Lincoln. John, I think you took a little bit of umbrage with that. If you would, in the next few minutes, kindly, sir, tell us why Lincoln is spinning in his grave right now.
Well, let's first and foremost give Liz Cheney her due. On the January 6th committee, she's been an outstanding member, and her challenges to Trump and to people around Trump have been terrific. And give her credit for that. Give her credit for voting to impeach Donald Trump when everyone knew that he should be impeached. So high marks in all those areas. But I just want to caution about Liz Cheney's very, very substantial ego, which I would argue is every bit as substantial as Donald Trump's. And the fact that Liz Cheney would like very much to be in charge of the Republican Party. She's mad that Trump's in charge. And I understand that. I think it's totally appropriate. I don't have a problem with that. But it is important to recognize that if she came back to being in charge, and she and, the Cheney family, the Bush family, the old school folks came back to being in charge, it's not like you're putting some moderate, enlightened Republican in a position of authority there. Liz Cheney is somebody who has dealt in racist and xenophobic tropes. She's vicious in her attacks on people. She, as a so-called establishment Republican, was at least sympathetic to Donald Trump's birther lies about Barack Obama. She claimed that Kamala Harris sounds like Karl Marx, which I can assure you she doesn't. And, again and again and again, if you look at Liz Cheney's record, 93% voting with Donald Trump, endorsed Donald Trump in 2016 and 2020, raised money for Donald Trump when he was running for president. I just don't see her as, the embodiment of Abraham Lincoln in these times.
Would you see Dominic as the embodiment of David in these times, John?
Well, okay, so we're going to have a little competition there between Dominic and Abe Lincoln, or between Dominic and Liz Cheney. I will tell you that Dominic, whose constant progress toward enlightenment is a thing of wonder, I would definitely vote for him over Liz Cheney.
Yes!
Nichols, hold that thought. Dom hates the theater as well. Support John Nichols.
Stories come to life at your local parks and forests. They're places of wonder, and they're closer than you think. Make the forest part of your story today at a local park near you, or find one at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hi, everyone. Al Roker here. As a guy with his own catchphrase, I appreciate that Smokey's only said,
"Only you can prevent wildfires."
But I'm filling in because there's a lot more to report. Like when there are parched or windy conditions out there, you gotta be extra careful with things like burning yard waste. After all, wildfires can start anywhere, even in your neck of the woods. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Mitch McConnell did make a public statement, right? After he voted to acquit, "Oh, nothing says the president can't be prosecuted," set the example for it.
Convince your caucus as to why the man is not fit to serve. How do you not use your leadership to say, you guys, this is crazy. We can't do this, and here is exactly why. Because now of the two major political parties, one of them is under the thumb of a fascist insurrectionist.
Follow the Devil's Advocates on Facebook and Twitter.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstad at the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I am proud to introduce you to Choice, our new pink grapefruit-flavored hard seltzer. Choice was made in collaboration with Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin, and 5% of the proceeds from every can goes to support them and their fight for reproductive freedom. Choice Hard Seltzer tastes great and comes in at only 105 calories per can. Go to our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to find where you can buy Choice Hard Seltzer.
Being a father is an honor, a challenge, a duty, a celebration, and a testimony. I want to be legendary for you because I found everything to live for.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Occupy didn't start on Wall Street. It started on our street. The Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Be sure to check us out on the social medias, on Twitter at Devil Radio, on Facebook at the Devil's Advocates Radio, of course, on the phones at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, we got a fine caller right now. He is John Nichols, our good friend from the nation, from the Cap Times locally. John, thanks for sticking around. Man, wanted to talk to you about the gubernatorial race. Tim Michels apparently won the nomination and then ran back home to Connecticut, or had COVID. He was MIA for like a week, John, but now he's back in the race. Do you think he can etch a sketch a la Romney, or do you think this man's married to Donald Trump all the way to the general?
Well, he tried to etch a sketch it, didn't he? I mean, it was revealed by this New York Times reporter who, was doing yeoman's work and went to probably, grab some quote off Tim Michels' website and noticed that Michels had scraped off all reference to Donald Trump right after the primary. So Michels is like, well, thanks, Donald. Now that I'm the nominee, I don't know you. And when that was revealed, of course, understanding Donald Trump's ego and Donald Trump's tendency to dislike it when you distance yourself from him, reference Liz Cheney, Michels scrambled back and said, I fully embrace Donald Trump's endorsement, thrilled to have it. We put all the Trump references back on the website. So I think that Tim Michels knows full well that being associated with Donald Trump in a November election in Wisconsin is not necessarily the most useful thing, but he can't really get out of it now. So no, he is not going to go full Romney. He's not going to become the Liz Cheney of Wisconsin. He is Donald Trump's man. There's simply no question of that. And, I will say, I think a lot of people are being pretty rough on him and, pointing out his foibles and flaws. But I will say this in defense of Tim Michels. He was gone for a week or so, or quite a while after he won the nomination. But do you have any idea how tough it is to do air travel these days? I mean, getting from Connecticut to Wisconsin is not easy.
One more, then I'll let Dom take a crack at you, John. Michels is definitely a Trump guy, and here's how I know it, John Nichols. He's out there complaining about the rigged polls. He says his gut tells him he's really up 5-10 on Tony Evers because, Republican people, when they get called by the pollsters, they lied to the pollsters. Johnny might have a point about that, but is it feasible that Michels is actually beating Tony Evers, despite what the polling says?
Well, let's work with this, okay? First and foremost, we got a newly minted Republican nominee for governor who says my supporters are a bunch of liars, which is, it's an interesting your backers. But beyond that, they're a very intriguing bunch of liars because apparently to perpetuate the lie, a huge number of them said that they were supporting Mandela Barnes. Because if Michaels is ahead by 5 or 10 points and Mandela Barnes is ahead by 7 points and in a majority position, that means that there's a lot of Republicans who are saying they're supporting Mandela Barnes. And I kind of don't buy that. What I do think happened is that Tim Michaels actually did better in that poll than he is currently positioned at. And I'll tell you why. That poll was conducted right after a primary in which Tim Michaels had spent, I think it was about $12 million on name recognition and wall-to-wall advertising, direct mailings, and et cetera. So Tim Michaels was at about his strongest possible position when that poll was conducted. And my sense is that now that there's a lot more, he's not up on air as much, and Evers and others are up with ads criticizing him, especially on the issue of choice, but a host of other issues. I don't think he'd pull as well this week as he did last week. So, again, he may be using some formula that they apply in Connecticut for polling, but I don't think he's reading the Wisconsin polls. I don't think he's got some sort of secret theory for how the Wisconsin polls are actually showing him to be a winner. I think he is behind, and he's probably more behind than even the Marquette poll suggested.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. John Nichols from The Nation, also from the Cap Times. John, 3 more minutes left here. Lindsey Graham, famously said, if we nominate Trump, we will get destroyed and we will deserve it. Fast forward to the last Trump rally, Crute drugged me to, when Michaels was introduced by Trump. And he said something very interesting to me, was that the Republican Party in their mind was reborn although it was started here in Wisconsin, it was reborn in New York at Trump Tower. And to me, John, that means they've murdered the original, whatever was the GOP, and now that's something different. Number one, do you think that the party nationally and locally here in the state of Wisconsin, the GOP is in disarray? And two, do you think they can recover from what Trump has done to that party?
Two very good questions. First, are they in disarray? Not necessarily. I think if we're honest with ourselves, we have to recognize that Wisconsin, as an example, is a very closely divided state, and that Trump has turned the Republican Party into a Trump party. I mean, it is a reflection of him. But remember, he got almost half the vote in 2020 in Wisconsin. And so, I wouldn't run around imagining that the Republican Party is total chaos. I apologize. There's motorcycles all around here. But I wouldn't imagine that the Republican Party is in total chaos. I think they're ready for this November election, and I think they'll mount a serious campaign. But that other side of your question is a really intriguing one. Does this Republican Party have anything whatsoever to do with the Republican Party that was founded in Wisconsin at Ripon in 1854? And the answer is absolutely nothing. That Republican Party founded in 1854 was in favor of land reform to, deal with poverty. It supported, efforts to, stop the spread of slavery. It was welcoming immigrants, and frankly, a lot of the people that were involved in it were, in that initial founding, were members of a socialist commune. So no, the current Republican Party has nothing to do with the Republican Party of 1854. It also has nothing to do with the Republican Party of 1954 when Dwight Eisenhower was president. And frankly, I don't think it has much to do with the Republican Party of even 2000 or 1984 when Ronald Reagan was president. Reagan was a conservative, but he wasn't this kind of conservative. So they have become a very different party. They are a cult of Donald Trump.
And it's not Scott Walker or Rebecca Clayfish's Republican Party, John. Less than a minute.
Obviously not, because the voters had a chance to, re-up the Scott Walker concession, and they didn't. In fact, they rejected it. Now, I happen to believe that was the dumbest thing Rebecca Clayfish did. The idea of putting Scott Walker on your TV ads in Wisconsin, basically it was just like screaming, hey, take a look down at Racine County. How is that investment from that Taiwanese company going? So I don't think associating with Walker was the smartest move to be.
Thank you, John Nichols. Foxconn or bust, baby. Didn't work as a campaign for Rebecca or Walker. More Devil's Advocates. Hour 2 is next.
Thanks, John.
Hi, it's Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
Knucklehead CBD and Vapes is now online at knuckleheads.shop. Step into your favorite smoke shop without leaving your home. Find grinders, papers, Delta 8 and more, all from your computer or phone. With free shipping on all orders over $50, you'll be sure to find exactly what you like. You can also order for in-store pickup so there's no wait. Knucklehead CBD and Vapes, located at 520 State Street in Madison. Order online today at knuckleheads.shop. With free shipping on all orders over $50, you'll be sure to find exactly what you like.
Listen to the Empowered Caregiver Show each Saturday and Sunday morning at 8 a.m. with hosts Liza Hellenbrand and Kristen Voss.
Right here on Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
You know what? I'll tell you something. There's nothing better than a hot sausage, couple 2-3 cold beers, and Devil Radio on a box.
Devil Radio has been kicking ass, earning every listener, and providing our sponsors return on investment 3 years now on the Madison airwaves. And there has never been a better time than right now to advertise with us and join the Devil Radio community. Our audience is loyal and growing every day. Active listeners that don't flip. Wonder if your ad dollars are working? Devil Radio listeners will tell you it works. Ad production is included. Devil Radio will make it easy for you to start seeing return on your investment. Call today.
Hi, everyone. Listen to the Matt McNeil Show weekday afternoons at 3 p.m. on Devil Radio 92.7 and WTTN 1580 AM. 1 hour every weekday where we'll talk about all sorts of things like politics, especially with what's going on right now, plus other things too. Parenting, the arts, religion, music, beer. If it matters to Wisconsin and Minnesota, we'll talk about it. Phone calls are welcome at 952-946-6205. For 1 hour each day, come see the trained chimp, the Matt McNeil Show, 3 p.m. weekday afternoons right here on Devil Radio 92.7 and WTTN 1580 AM.
When you're having computer problems, you need a company you trust to get things working again, quickly and affordably. Madison Computer Works has been doing that for business and residential customers for decades. Our computer care plans take away the hassle of being without your computer or needing to bring it in for repair. Starting at only $10 a month, our local and friendly techs provide remote help and can fix most problems in just minutes. Call 608-231-8000 and sign up today. Madison Computer Works, computers that work for you.
With better reception than their tinfoil hats, why listen to any other station? 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, Madison's home for Devil Radio.
For Civic Media, I'm Jane Natner with your headlines. Wisconsin's Republican Assembly Speaker Robin Vos isn't finished facing off against challenger Adam Steen. Vos defeated Steen in the August 9th primary by just 260 votes, but he'll be facing him again in November with Steen as a write-in candidate on the ballot. Vos refused to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election at the request of former Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice Michael Gableman, who Vos hired to lead the office to investigate those fraud claims. However, Vos ultimately refused to entertain a suggestion Wisconsin could legally overturn the election results. Steen claims if voters had known he was endorsed by the former president, he would have beaten Vos. Partly cloudy today, high 80. Partly cloudy tonight, low 59. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM, WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, rolling into the happier Monday happy hour. Always happy when John Nichols from The Nation comes around. If you missed him in hour one, I apologize. Where were you? Try him on the podcast each and every day. We post it at darnwi.com. Most days. The moving target of late, I understand. A lot of the first hour of this show, dealt with U.S. Senator Ron Johnson and some of the crazy things he said and done. And, the fact that, he was an insurrectionist, but only for a couple of seconds, Dom.
Yeah, just a short period of time, Michael.
Well, Dom, I'd like to think the best is yet to come. Our Rojo news. In fact, a brand new political cartoon at the Cap Times. I know it doesn't play on the radio, but I'd like to describe it to you fair people. Phil Hands, the fine author and journalist and cartooner. Cartoonist? Are they cartoonist?
Sure.
So, anyways, there's a Ron Johnson in the background poster and a pollster, with the monocles on, saying, polls now show you're trailing Mandela Barnes, but we shouldn't panic yet. Polling isn't an exact science. And Ron Johnson, with his eyes closed, stands before a sign with a line through it on climate change, and he's got an anti-vaxxer button on. He's trying all the drugs, Tom. He's got his ivermectin he's taking there. And then Phil Hands has him responding, I don't believe in science anyways.
Nice.
So the new polling doesn't bother him much. Anyways, there's an article, a column, an opinion piece, if you will, Eugene Robinson over at the Washington Post. Which Republican Senate candidate is worst? There's so many choices. But I tell you what, Tom, I'm saying it's got to be Rojo. It's got to be Rojo, doesn't it?
I don't know. There's some pretty terrible options out there for Republicans right now. There's actually quite a competition in Rojo. While he is pretty bad, there's some other bad ones out there, Curdy.
I think it's got to be Rojo, but let me read a little from this article. The race for the title of most incomplete, least electable Republican candidate for the Senate has become a real competition. Thanks, Donald Trump. The former president's endorsements led enough bad Senate nominees to primary victories that the GOP's hopes of seizing control of the chamber in which should be a Republican year, they're fading. Minority Leader Mitch McConnell acknowledged ruefully last week that candidate quality is an issue. The lack thereof might have been implied, but his point was obvious. Former football star Herschel Walker, whom Trump muscled his party into nominating against Democratic incumbent Raphael Warnock in Georgia, had an early lead in the contest for the hands-down worst Republican standard bearer. His across-the-board incoherence remains unmatched. But while Walker trails in the poll, he's actually doing better than some of the Trump-endorsed counterparts in other states. Well, before we move on from Herschel Walker, over the course of the weekend, a debate was offered with him and Raphael Warnock. And he turned down the Thursday night debate and said, I can't debate him. Everyone's going to be watching Sunday Night Football. On Thursday, when the debate was proposed. Anyways, let's consider him a possibility for the worst Republican senatorial candidate.
The guy apparently, admittedly, put a gun up to the temple of his girlfriend, ex-wife, whatever the case is, significant other, and threatened her life. And he is now using that as an opportunity to address, of course, mental illness. But what about the actual act, sir? You pulled a gun and held it to your spouse's head? Is that normal?
Amongst Republican senatorial candidates, it might be dumb. Also, I understand he's got like half a dozen baby mamas. But anyways, they're the family values party and all that, Tom. It makes sense that Trump, a former reality television star, backed a reality television physician. But Oz's supposed media savvy hasn't made up for his other problems. Chief among them, a lack of connection to the state he wants to represent. Kind of sounds like that Tim Michaels character running for governor of Wisconsin. Apparently last week he was running from Connecticut.
I didn't know Turkey was the 51st state.
Oz, a longtime New Jersey resident, only moved to Pennsylvania 2 years ago. Fetterman's campaign has made gleeful social media friendly hay from that fact, pushing for Oz to be nominated to the New Jersey Hall of Fame and spotlighting the number of Oz's residences. It certainly didn't help last week that a video of Oz going grocery shopping and complaining about inflation went viral. Oz was trying to portray himself as Joe Average. He did not succeed. In the video, first he gets the name of the store wrong. It was Redner's, a well-known Pennsylvania-based chain, not Wegner's as he called it. He then examines some raw broccoli, asparagus, and carrots and explains, my wife wants some vegetables for crudités. Fetterman, a cargo shorts and hoodie wearing Joe Average, in everything but height, responded, in Pennsylvania, we call this a veggie tray. A bumper sticker with the slogan, let them eat crudité. Well, I continue down. There's more.
I'll jump in here, Curdy, if we can handle it all. Then there's Blake Masters, Crute in Arizona Republicans had high hopes of defeating incumbent Democratic Senator Mark Kelly, who looked vulnerable, but Trump pushed the GOP to nominate Masters, a venture capitalist and political novice who has disturbing support from far-right extremists and who backs Trump's false claims about the purported illegitimacy of the 2020 presidential election. Masters has also attacked McConnell for being not good at legislating and called for him to be replaced as GOP leader in the Senate. While Kelly's political skills are seen by Democratic strategists as less than dazzling, a Fox News poll last week found him leading Masters by 8 points, 50-42.
And a Foxy News poll.
Crute in Ohio, the GOP ought to have a lock on retiring Republican Senator Rob Portman's seat. Trump won the state by 8 points in 2020, but a mid-August poll by Emerson College showed Republican J.D. Vance ahead of Democratic Rep. Tim Ryan by a mere 3 points, and a string of earlier polls by the nonpartisan Center Street PAC consistently showed Ryan in the lead. Vance might have gotten rich writing his best-selling memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, but Ryan has deep roots in the state's most industrial Youngstown area. Vance was stridently anti-Trump before he became stridently pro-Trump, and like Walker, Oz, and Masters, he is a political novice. But Crute, I'll let you do the Ron Johnson if you'd like.
I think it's got to be Ron, the worst Republican U.S. Senate candidate in America. It's got to be the incumbent from Wisconsin. Let me read a little about him. Meanwhile, Republican Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, a MAGA true believer, trails Democratic challenger Mandela Barnes by 4 points, according to Foxy News, about 7 points if you believe the Marquette polling. Even Senator Marco Rubio of Florida is suddenly running for his political life against his likely challenger, Democrat Rep. Val Deming. The polling averages have Rubio ahead, but the only recent survey by the University of North Florida showed Demings with a 4-point lead. These races are close, and given polling errors in Democrats' favors in recent elections, the contest might even be fiercer than these figures indicate. Still, if the GOP snatches defeat from the jaws of victory and falls short in the Senate, Trump will be to blame. It's not clear what impact the Supreme Court's decision striking down Roe v. Wade, made possible by 3 justices Trump appointed, will have on the Democratic turnout. But if voters across the country come out in huge numbers to support abortion rights, as they did in recent Kansas referendum, then all bets are off. Could Democrats even keep the majority in the House? Still unlikely, but watch this space, because it looks impossible to overestimate the damage Trump can do to his own party. Oh, they own this guy now, don't they, Dom? It's their Trump party. It's the MAGA party.
If we look at the trend line, from Donald Trump, it's a loss. It's loss and loss and loss. I mean, he won 2016. What happened then? He loses the House. He loses the Senate, right? I mean, he has overseen the destruction and the disaster that is the Republican Party. And while obviously, the midterms generally go against the party in power, that in this case would be the Democrats, it's hard to think about how that's going to play with the trend line that the GOP and Trump has been on. They have been losing left and right. And this is, of course, a huge election. And I am so certainly hopeful that Donald Trump will complete the destruction of what was the GOP into the MAGA party.
Well, it should be a referendum on Joe Biden's presidency. That's what the midterms generally are. And whatever the rationale and the reasons that many of my audience and your audience voted for Joe Biden, a lot of us, feel a little let down by the outcomes, didn't deliver the way we would want him to. And often the party in power, they feel a little let down and they stay home in the midterms. But that was before Roe v. Wade was overturned. And Donald Trump has so energized his base with these claims of false elections. My understanding is that is now the number one electoral issue in America. It has surpassed inflation as the number one electoral issue. The integrity of democracy. That can't bode well for Donald Trump. I don't see him as the pro-democracy candidate. And those that he would endorse, they, of course, are not the pro-democracy candidates either, Dom. They're the right makes right candidate.
Herschel Walker, Oz. I mean, Rojo. I mean, keep going down the list. Blake Masters.
Yeah, bad crew. Not a real deep bench, as they say. But I think the Senate could be in Democratic control, at least, barring the unforeseen. But the probable is Donald Trump's going to declare his candidacy between now and the midterms to try and stave off some sort of prosecution. And in doing so, he's going to crystallize the electorate's choice. Do you want 4 more or more years of Donald Trump and his acolytes? And of course, the answer is hell no. Come back. More Devil's Advocates.
I got bad news and bad news. Give the bad news first.
The best is yet to come.
It's so bad.
He's rounding first, second, third. He stopped between third and home. What the heck?
Ooh, that's not the time to stop. And now's not the time to stop wearing a mask. Vaccines are a game changer, but the game's not over. Mask up until you're vaccinated. Let's finish strong. For more information, please visit cdc.gov/masks. A message by CDC and the Ad Council.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidacy. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
Cardall put out these weird, sad videos interviewing incapacitated elders in their nursing homes that don't have the ability to say, don't use me as your political prop.
If they are what you say they are, then you shouldn't be doing it how you did it.
Yes, it was the kids using the parents as props. Well, my old man hasn't talked since 76. Of course he would have voted for Trump. That's the evidence. Videos. People that can't talk.
It is wrong. It's absolutely wrong.
Check out the entire podcast library at darnwi.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived in Philadelphia. Local time is 3:05 p.m. and the temperature is 67 degrees. At this time, you are now free to use your cellular devices.
You know that feeling when you get to turn your phone on after the plane lands? You can have that feeling every time you drive. Make sure your cell phone is stowed away whenever you are behind the wheel.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Malarkey. The Devil's Advocates invented malarkey.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. You can always join us on the phone. It's at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I just got the governor's press schedule. The current governor, one must assume the incumbent, Tony Evers. They make sure it's embargoed. But I would just point out, he is traveling across the state of Wisconsin, and he has press conferences tomorrow in southeastern Wisconsin. And then he has a press conference in north central Wisconsin 2 hours later. I think they're firing up the state airplane. I don't think they're motorcading from southeastern to north central Wisconsin in 2 hours, minus press conferences. So just keep that in mind. Tony's got out the plane. We're racking up the frequent flyer miles now because the campaign's in full session. But Dom, here's something I took note of. First, you took note of it. You put it on our Facebook page. If you don't know, that's our custom. Dom and I communicate, if in no other way, through the Facebook. We put up articles. Hey, take a look at this, Crute or Dom or whatever. Patrick Marley, our buddy, now working for the Washington Post, points this out. After attacks and primary challenge, Wisconsin GOP leader still stands by Trump.
Boo.
Tim Nichols. And we're not talking Rojo, although Rojo was kind of running away from Trump this weekend. We're talking about Wisconsin Assembly Speaker Robin Vos. Fears that Republicans may have a dying vision because of party orthodoxy. Is that the reason? Barley, Dateline Madison. Over the past 15 months, the Speaker of the Wisconsin Assembly has sought to placate Donald Trump as the former president bombarded him with phone calls about the 2020 election, accused him of covering up corruption, and labeled him a Republican in name only, and endorsed his little-known primary opponent. And after winning his primary by just 260 votes this month, Robin Vos expressed no regrets by Trump. No regrets. I think Donald Trump has done a lot of good things for our country, and if he runs again, he could do a lot more, Vos said in an interview in his state capitol office. But I'm not going to say that just because Donald Trump believes something that I'm going to change what I believe unless I'm persuaded. Oh, Trump could be persuasive. After the 2020 election, Republican leaders fell mostly into two camps. Camp number one, Dom, embracing Trump's lies about his loss, and one, resisting his demands to reverse the results. That's the smaller camp. Vos tried to forge a middle ground, launching an expansive and expensive review of the election, but refusing to take the legally impossible step of decertifying the election. His efforts weren't enough to escape Trump's revenge. Unlike many of the others who defied the former president, Vos has survived so far. After hanging on by the slimmest of margins, Vos may again be thrust into battles over election results in a battleground state where elections for president and governor are often decided by a percentage point or less. You want to do the...
Yeah, I'll jump in here, Crute. Charlie Sykes, a Trump critic who for years was an influential conservative talk radio host in Milwaukee. We know that guy. We blame that guy. Here's what he had to say now. One of the things we're seeing is that Trump is demanding a specific kind of loyalty. It's not just that you are loyal to Trump, but you are loyal to Trump's most extreme versions of the lie. This is a significant misstep, Sykes said, of how Vos has handled himself. But it feels like the kind of a misstep the establishment Republicans have been making over the last 6 years, which is okay. People aren't really going to buy the crazy. I can manage the crazy, only to find out that the crazy is unmanageable. Some Republican officials have fared better than Vos, while others have fared worse. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia and Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger put up stiffer resistance to Trump than Vos did, but won their primaries comfortably. Arizona House Speaker Rusty Bowers, who refused Trump's entreaties to overturn the results of his state and testified before Congress about the pressure he faced, this month lost his primary for a seat in the state Senate by a 2-1 margin. Of the 10 House Republicans who voted to impeach Trump after the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, 4 chose not to seek re-election, 4 lost their primaries, and 2 advanced to their general elections. Vos pushed back against comparisons between him and House members like Liz Cheney and Peter Meyer, who lost their recent primaries. A quote from Vos: "I have never undercut or said that Donald Trump did something in the White House or in public policy that in general I didn't agree with. I don't like to be compared to those two because I think they did other things which were different. All that I've done is say that we can't do something that's unconstitutional." Yeah, but Vos, I mean, you still support the guy Trump, who certainly it was unconstitutional in his actions to, prevent the peaceful transfer of power, and his actions to put forth a slate of fraudulent electors. That's also unconstitutional, Vos.
Perhaps he takes some modest objection to the incitement of a riot on January 6th or the plotting of a coup by Donald Trump. And I suspect Robin Vos is well aware. I suspect Robin Vos got a call about the fraudulent elector scheme. Right? He wasn't out in the cold. He knew exactly what was going on. And what's he say? "I have never undercut or said that Donald Trump did something in the White House or in public policy that in general I didn't agree with." So basically he endorses all of these actions: the incitement of a riot, the undertaking of a coup against the Constitution. None of that bothers him. He's down for all that stuff. The only crime that Trump has ever committed, endorsing Adam Steed. Which his primary opponent. That's the only crime. And he's not going to admit it because Adam Steed's doing a write-in on the general election. And he's very, very concerned that, if he further angers the Cheeto Messiah, that Trump's going to come in, fly it again, do a backyard barbecue for Adam Steen and try to, remove the Speaker of the Assembly once again.
I don't believe that Assembly Speaker in Wisconsin, Robin Vos, would ever push back to the degree that he probably should, even if Trump took his wife furniture shopping.
Oh, I think he would. Michelle's quite pretty. Better watch your back and your wife. Come back. More Devil's Advocates, the Happier Happy Hour with your phone calls. Gene, you're first. Hang tight. The rest of you can be right after Jeannie at 844-967-2789.
I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And doggone it, people like me.
Mike Pence said no.
Miss your favorite show? Find our entire podcast library at devilradio927.com.
Dark Horse Art Bar is Madison's newest live music venue and art gallery. Check out these events at the Dark Horse. Sunday, August 21st is Lee Brains with Gloria Fires. Tuesday, August 23rd is Two Johns and a Nancy. Thursday, August 25th is Nate Bing and the Stolen Sea. And Friday, August 26th, it's Jason Vargas and the Apollos. Dark Horse Art Bar, 756 East Washington Avenue in downtown Madison. Online at darkhorsemadison.com. This local musical interlude is brought to you by Max Inc. Radio, VO5.
Let's do it on the dance floor. Let's do it how we can. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Listen to Max Inc. Radio every Saturday and Sunday, 6 p.m. to midnight. Download the podcast at maxincradio.com. We are local music.
Meanwhile, the judge says the affidavit spelling out the basis for the search may not contain a lot of information that can be made public. The AP's Eric Tucker.
He is inclined, given the overwhelming public interest in this case, to release at least parts of it. And the Justice Department says the whole thing is so sensitive that the document that could be released to the public will be basically blacked out if we are to redact it.
A South Dakota ethics board says it's found sufficient information that Governor Kristi Noem may have engaged in misconduct when she intervened in her daughter's application for a real estate appraiser license. It's also referred a separate complaint over her use of a state airplane to the state's Attorney General for investigation. Stocks down heavily on Wall Street today. The Dow and the S&P both off about 2% and the NASDAQ 2.5%. I'm Ben Todd.
Angie's List is now Angie, your home for everything home. With Angie, you could cross your next project off your to-do list before this ad is over. Just tell us what you need, and we'll handle the rest. Sending a top pro to get it done. Or browse reviews, compare quotes from pros, and connect instantly. All for free. For everything from routine maintenance to a dream remodel. Because however you want your project done, we'll get it done. Download the app or go to Angie.com. That's ANGI.com to get started.
We tried Dynovite for gut health and immune support, and after a couple of weeks, our little Gizmo was acting like a puppy again. His coat was shinier, he had a lot less scratching and shedding, and he seemed like his happy old self.
My dog smelled and scratched constantly. We bathed and sprayed her, took her to the vet, but no results. Now, a little Dynovite in her food helps Bella keep her beautiful coat with no scratching or smell.
Get 10% off your next order of Dynovite nutritional supplements for dogs at Dynovite.com.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynovite.
From Up North News, I'm Pat Kreitlow. Once again, we're reminded of the line in Arrested Development that goes, "I may have committed some light treason." Asked whether he would testify to the January 6th committee, Senator Ron Johnson said no, because his role in a Trump plot to deliver the fraudulent ballots of fake electors, well, in Johnson's words, my involvement lasted seconds. But that's because Vice President Mike Pence's staffer had the good sense to tell Johnson's staffer not to deliver the fake ballots that Johnson claims were dropped off at his office on that fateful morning. Also on the U.S. Senate race, the amount of money spent by one super PAC on Johnson's behalf has now topped $10 million. American Truth PAC is funded with $6.5 million from billionaire Diane Hendricks and $3.5 million from billionaires Dick and Liz Uihlein. They reaped much more than that when Johnson sweetened a corporate tax write-off in 2017. More at upnorthnewswi.com.
The Devil's Advocates, rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Big Monday edition, rolling through the happy hour with your phone calls at 844-967-2789. Got a few more quotes from Voss, but first, Jeannie from Eau Claire. How you doing, Jeannie?
Hey, Jeannie.
I only got a real quick comment to make, and that is Tony Evers has made a lot of visits to over to our side of the state. He's been consistent. He meets with people.
He's going to be there tomorrow.
Is he tomorrow?
Don't tell anyone it's embargoed, but he'll be there tomorrow again, Jeannie. You're part of the state.
Oh, great. But he comes to our side of the state. I just wanted to let you guys know that. So he is working with the people, and keep up the great work, and thanks for taking my call. Bye.
Bye, Jeannie. I would look around about 2:00 tomorrow afternoon in your backyard, Jeannie, because there just might be a Governor Evers sighting. Just might be. But he's going to traverse the state tomorrow, Dom. At least he's not using the state plane to get a haircut.
As far as we know.
Do we want to come back to this Robin Voss stuff, or should we talk about Gableman's new job?
Oh, man, do we have to talk about either one of them? There's some Trump news out there, man.
What's the Trump news?
Oh, you haven't heard? Well, let me lay it on you, brother. Let's start first with the Mar-a-Lago search. According to CNBC, Trump sues to block the DOJ from reviewing materials the FBI seized at Mar-a-Lago until a watchdog is appointed. So here's a little bit. Former President Trump, in a new lawsuit Monday, asked a federal judge to appoint a special watchdog to review documents seized from his Florida home as part of a criminal investigation of the removal of White House records when he left office in January 21. Trump's lawsuit, which suggests the August 8th FBI raid was politically motivated, also asked the Department of Justice to be blocked from further review of seized materials from his Mar-a-Lago residence until the so-called special masters appointed to review the documents. Special masters are appointed in criminal cases.
Special master.
When there is a concern that some materials seized by authorities should not be viewed by investigators because it is protected by attorney-client privilege or other factors that weigh against it being used in a prosecution. Special masters were appointed to review materials seized in federal criminal probes of two of Trump's former personal attorneys, Michael Cohen and Rudy Giuliani. Trump's suit in U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida accuses the federal government of violating his Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable searches and seizures with the raid, which is believed to be the first time the home of a former president was searched in connection with a criminal case. And in addition to seeking the special master, the suit also asks the DOJ to be required to provide him with a more detailed inventory of property seized at the Palm Beach resort. And it requests that the government return any seized item that was not within the scope of the search warrant authorizing the raid. This Mar-a-Lago break-in, search, and seizure was illegal and unconstitutional, Trump said in a written statement released after the complaint was filed. There's more to it. We posted it up on the Devil's Advocates Facebook page, but you get the gist. Trump apparently so distraught over his alleged Fourth Amendment violations.
I've got the entire statement down.
Oh, please.
It's been sent to me by the former and the Save America PAC via email because he can't tweet anymore. And I'm not on the Truthy social. Statement by Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States of America, regarding break-in of Mar-a-Lago. It was a break-in, Dom. We have just filed in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida, strongly asserting my rights, including under the Fourth Amendment of our Constitution, regarding the unnecessary, unwarranted, and un-American break-in by dozens of FBI agents and others of my home, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida. A lot of commas in that paragraph. I'm like, every other word's a comma. They demanded that the security cameras be turned off, a request we rightfully denied. They prevented my attorneys from observing what was being taken in the raid, saying absolutely not. They took documents covered by attorney-client and executive privilege, which is not allowed. They took my passports. They even brought a safe cracker and successfully broke into my personal safe, which revealed nothing. We are now demanding the Department of Justice be instructed to immediately stop the review of the documents illegally seized from my home. All documents have been previously declassified. No, they haven't. That's why the FBI came and raided your home. They also subpoenaed you back in February of this year, and you did not respond. But of course, this is really just for the MAGAs, right, Dom?
It's for the fundraising purposes. It's for the grift. It's for the show. It's for the entertainment. That's all this is about.
We are demanding the appointment of a special master, all caps, to oversee the handling of the materials taken in the raid. We are further demanding that the DOJ be forced to turn over a real without plants, because, you know, they planted lots of stuff at the Mar-a-Lago inventory of my property that was taken and disclosed where the property is now located. We're demanding that all items wrongfully taken from my home be immediately returned. There will be no items returned to you, Trump. The wrongful overboard warrant was signed by a magistrate judge who has recused himself just 2 months ago from a major civil suit that I filed because of his bias and animus towards me. That's also not true. The Mar-a-Lago break-in, search, and seizure was illegal and unconstitutional, and we are taking all actions necessary to get the documents back, which we would have given to them without the necessity of a despicable raid of my home, so I can give them to the National Archives until they're required for the future Donald J. Trump Presidential Library. I never stop fighting for the American people, our country, and wait for it, Dom, and the rule of law. Make America great again. You know, Save America PAC. Donald J. Trump.
All right, so, I mean, a couple of thoughts. I mean, obviously, if there was something that was taken outside the scope of the subpoena and the affidavit, sure, okay, that's fine. But, you know, if there's, you know, documents between White House counsel and the former president, well, those are not, you know, those are state documents now. You know, they're no longer White House counsel. He's no longer president. So if he's got something from a private attorney or he's got some other things, I can appreciate that position. But he does, right. Yes, so this whole point is to just give the justification for the continued grift, and in some ways, it's much like the grift on the elections, right? You come out and you just make some statements that are false, but it doesn't matter. You're using the court to justify. You're using the courts to justify your PR campaign, and we know that the courts don't take too kindly to that, as we've seen many of the attorneys be reprimanded by the courts for their efforts to do so. So he has, you know, probably enough legit beef on this to not be reprimanded, his attorneys be reprimanded. But I think you're right, Crute. I don't think he's getting squat back.
You know, another top of the page story over at the Washington Post at this hour: files copied from voting systems were shared with Trump supporters and election deniers. That wasn't supposed to happen, right, Dom? So as Trump is delaying this process, you know, effectively what do you want? Oh, release the warrant. Oh, you can't release the warrant. Then I want a special master, which of course the average person doesn't know what that means. And it's an unnecessary delay, but it's a delayed tactic because, you know, the man's gearing up for a presidential run to try and keep his ass out of jail. And you may not like it, but that's his motive.
He's not running. He'll never get close.
He may never get close to the Oval Office again, but close to running again? Oh, hell yes. He's already running. He's already collecting money. I mean, half the fundraising solicitations the man makes, he's talking about, oh, it's the filing time frame, right? Like I got to file a campaign finance report. Only what? He's not running for anything?
Of course he's not, man. He put that in his pocket.
Dollars. I don't think it's supposed to work like that. But he's got bigger fish to fry. As do we in this case. CJ, don't forget, CJ, there's rules. Welcome to the show. What do you got for us?
Hey, CJ.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call, Crute and Dom. One of your previous callers, since I'm using her subject, saw Tony Evers, but he sure wasn't there for Kenosha and Racine, was he, as they were burned down. And I saw the first of...
Was he supposed to be hanging out with Rittenhouse, shooting people on the street that night, CJ? What would have been the appropriate actions from the governor that evening in Kenosha?
Too little, too late from that guy, and not to mention...
But what would have been the appropriate action? Let's say it was Governor Tim Michaels or Scott Walker. What would they have done that would have changed the outcome that evening?
Would have had the National Guard there earlier. He didn't even take the call when it was offered. So
that's not exactly true, CJ. And actually, National Guard people were dispatched to Kenosha. You didn't like the timing, but they were dispatched.
3 days late? 3 days late, Trudy. He was asked, the police department asked for help. He shunned them for 3 days. Brilliant move. Well, I saw the first ad of many, I'm sure, to come on Mandela Barnes' defund the police ad. That'll go over big when people find out that he believed in defund the police. And then the Democrats turned away the offer of Tim Scott's to do police reform. Your party does everything for political gain. This was nothing.
Okay, let me ask you.
Nothing to do with 2022 or reducing the price of gas or groceries.
The gas is going down on its own. Groceries are going down a little bit on their own. Inflation's not even the number one issue amongst voters anymore. Let me ask you.
Yeah, because you and the Democrats and the press have done a good job.
Fella, my turn, or I'm cutting you off. Let me ask you. The recent raid on Mar-a-Lago and the FBI. I've heard lots of sentiment of defund the FBI, CJ. Do you agree with it?
No.
So
no, I don't. But I think there's a lot of questions to be asked. And Trump has a lot of reason to be suspicious. Remember, they spied on him before his campaign.
No, we're not going to go there again, because that never happened, CJ. He keeps making the claim, and the gullible occasionally believe it, but that never happened, CJ.
And even the ones that are not gullible, but just the willing patsies, they'll continue to repeat it, CJ. Even though you say it, and even though Trump says it, it doesn't make it true.
844-967-2789. It still went better than some days. Joe from Madison. Welcome, Joe. What do you got for us?
Hi, Joe.
Oh, it's a collision, I think, between the grandstanding by our ex-president talking about the need for a special master. Ooh, special master. Doesn't that just sound dramatic and something really, really special with a special master? And then let's talk about what may have happened with his documents that he took, and the kind of the war over whether they're classified or not mean really just about nothing, because the documents that pertain to nuclear secrets that he may have, we don't know yet. But we had indications of it by the designations that were given to the boxes that they were seeking, were labeled top secret. So what's in there? What did he do with them? What happened with it? And I think I would commend to your listeners, there was an article on a blog by a guy he runs a blog called stonekettle.com. And this guy is former intelligence, pretty high up. And his question was really, what did he take? And where did it go? Where did it end up? And what do we know and what happens because of this? The billions that have been spent to create the infrastructure that we have to gather information worldwide, whether it be through, through signals intercept, or whether it's human spies on the ground gathering information, and what that takes and costs to get those people in place to get information that guards our secrets. What has happened? I mean, will we ever know what kind of damage this guy did and who he sold it to? Did he keep it to himself? Did he just sit on it? Did he give it to the highest bidder? Did he let people look at it just to satisfy his ego? We don't know. And I wonder whether we're ever going to know, because...
Well, Joe, I think we're finding out more and more. And apparently they're looking for fingerprints on these specific files. And also they want the video record because they want to know which one of Trump's cronies have reviewed these documents. Apparently Trump invited lots of cronies in to review top secret documents, looking to somehow exonerate himself, over the Russia thing. Come back with us. That, or he's blackmailing the U.S. government. Prosecute me, I'll turn your secrets over to Rusher.
Conspiracy. That's what this is.
Why do people run from me?
My Shiro always goes the extra mile, stretches every dollar, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceretirement.org.
Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Birthday parties.
Happy birthday, Grandpa. Happy birthday to you.
Getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. Get the latest info about COVID-19 vaccines at getvaccineanswers.org. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Douglas LaFollette, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show.
Good to be here, Mike. Across the country, in most every state, the Secretary of State is the person who is in charge of the election. And we've seen lots of hanky-panky in Florida back during the Al Gore elections, in Ohio and Georgia and Arizona and Michigan.
We appreciate you coming around, sir.
Check out the entire podcast library at darnwi.com.
Hi there, I'm Kirk Bankstad, and I own the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I also have a super PAC. We make good trouble in the North Woods of Wisconsin. You can support our efforts at the MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and buy our woke gear, like t-shirts, hoodies, and trucker hats. Enter the code RADIO and get 10% off on your next purchase. A portion of all sales support the Minocqua Brewing Company Super PAC, which is dark money meant for good. That's the MinocquaBrewingCompany.com.
Here's today's STEM tip. Don't throw out that old plastic bottle. Repurpose it by turning it into an awesome terrarium. Just fill it with sand, pebbles, soil, and your favorite plant. It'll grow sealed right in its own ecosystem. Learn more at She Can STEM. A message from the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the last segment of the day. If you got something to say, hit us up right now, 844-967-2789.
That Blue Wave tweeting at us. Why do you let CJ talk? Conspiracy theorist was the term used by Dom, you know, one other topic I wanted to get to. Gableman's back on his feet. He's landed gainful employment, although I don't know if he's making Gableman money anymore, 11 grand a month on the taxpayer's dime. But apparently, after being fired by Robin Voss over, the election review, Michael Gableman now lists a conservative law firm as his employer. Days after being fired by Assembly Speaker Robin Voss, former Supreme Court Justice, corrupted, Michael Gableman is now working for a conservative law firm that assisted his now discontinued taxpayer-funded review of the 2020 election. Gableman listed his occupation as senior counsel at the Thomas More Society in a presentation he delivered over the weekend at a conference hosted by MyPillow executive Mike Lindell that focused on election conspiracies.
Oh, my God.
The new position is being promoted days after Voss terminated Gableman's contract overseeing the Assembly's election review after Gableman campaigned for Voss's primary opponent, Adam Steen, who came within 300 votes of defeating the legislative leader. The law firm subleased office space in Brookfield from Gableman while he was conducting the election review. Gableman planned to have the firm take over the lease when his review was complete. Must really like that office space, Tom. Gableman did not mention his contract termination during the 20-minute presentation at Lindell's Moment of Truth Summit in Springfield, Missouri. It's a show me state, Tom. Gableman and a spokesman for the Thomas More Society, which is not affiliated with the St. Thomas More Lawyer Society of Wisconsin, did not respond to questions about Gableman's employment. A spokeswoman for Voss directed questions to the law firm. Well, do you see the other part of this story? Gableman, the corrupted former justice, has been fired by Voss, mostly for petty reasons, but, he never should have been hired in the first place, right? What was I going to say? They want to continue to enforce these subpoenas, even though there is no longer a office of special counselor. they want to enforce the subpoenas of the Office of Special Counselor that were drafted by James Bopp, the infamous Bopp of Marjorie Taylor Greene representation, and of course, Gableman. But the subpoenas that they were trying to enforce, the threatened enforcement mechanism, was to jail the mayors of Green Bay and Madison. Remember the crazy when Gableman wanted to throw the mayors in jail?
Right.
They're still trying to enforce the subpoenas, Dom, through a court action in, wait for it, Waukesha County.
Of course there are. Well, and there's still other court cases that are pending. So although there is no funding, no office, no attorney, no representative, no employees, this entity, this thing continues to live and breathe and file court cases and support asinine subpoenas to what? Testify to whom and where and for what? You know what I'm saying? What an absolute joke. And I got to wonder on Gableman's end of it. So this was what the former sweet. I mean, I got to tell you, I think Gableman was, setting this thing up the whole time. Was he getting paid by this Thomas More Society while he was also working for the Wisconsin citizens? Was he moonlighting on the side? Did he get a cut of the rent when they were sharing the rent? Because he's an attorney. You can get a referral fee. That's right. That's righteous, right?
Do you think he got a kickback from the Cyber Ninja thing and the prior cyber symposium he attended at the expense of Wisconsin taxpayers? But that
kickback sounds so dramatic. Oh, a referral fee. Yes, that's how we do it. Commission.
A bird dog fee. What do they call it in the real estate world, Dom? So anyways, one nice story. I got a nice story for you, Dom. It is a magical Monday. We are getting so close to being empty nesters. I dropped the elder boy off of college this weekend. And of course, high school starting. I still got one at home. But I don't see him as much. He's down in the basement now. So it's kind of, sort of, like we got the house to ourselves. But, now I got the Edgewood College sweatshirt as opposed to the college sweatshirt I wore to college. Or the style sweatshirt. But pretty excited for Caden. We dropped him off. I didn't know it would take that long to fill this little dorm room. It's like a big closet, man. But they don't have to share. At least he is not sharing this freshman year, which is nice. He's got his own space, but, it's like a jail cell.
And you would know.
I would. I was in a Huber facility with more of a bunk bed, sort of a dormitory style. Shared room with lots of friendly, neighborly sorts.
Yeah.
Now, you and Mrs. Salvi are going to kind of be empty nesters yourself coming up here, Dom.
Yeah, I will not be doing this fabulous show on Thursday. Steph and I will be taking Izzy to the airport. She's flying to the Czech Republic, studying overseas for, I guess, until January for her first semester of her senior year. So we're going to go do that thing. We'll go visit sometime next month. So I'll have a little extended vacation sometime in September. But yeah, like for real, we're going to be empty nesters for like 5 months as we come back for her second semester of her senior year. So we'll have to get back to reality at that point. And then, we're getting close. So super excited for Iz. What a great opportunity. I wish, I didn't travel like that when I was a kid. It was just different.
Your parents didn't love you much.
I had my buddies, I had my girlfriend, and this is never going to change. We're in love, we're having fun. And you're 17, it's summertime. I'm not going, yeah, well, I guess I probably should have gone. But great experiences, hopefully in line for her, and we look forward and very proud of her. It's going to be a blast. I can't wait.
Well, I'm also very proud of young Izzy, but I'm a little concerned for you traveling in the Czech Republic, because if some sort of a Brittany Griner incident happens to you over there, man.
Come on, man.
I don't know if Dennis Rodman's available to come to
It's very chill. This is Bohemia, man. I mean, they're very chill over there. It's all good. No worries. I have been told by some Czech friends who grew up in Prague that it is weed isn't legal yet, but it's around if you want it. But the beer is supposed to be world class. I'm told I must try all the beers every day. So I'm on a mission. When in Rome. To go live the life, and it's gonna be great, man. I can't wait.
How are you going to replace your tequila input, though? I mean, tequila, that's not part of the normal Czech diet, is it?
I mean, probably not, but booze is booze is booze. You can get booze anywhere. So I'm sure they have tequila in Prague, dude. I'm a betting man. I'll be fine. But I do look forward to having some of that local beer, though.
Buddy, I hope when you take off next month for the Czech Republic, the Bohemians got your back, man, because you drying up for like 2 weeks in Europe. Oh, that's not a detox anyone needs.
No.
It sounds like a vacation for your family.
There'll be a crisis in Europe, no doubt about it. I'll be fine, man. I'm pretty resourceful that way. I make lots of friends.
Yeah. I bet you will. Don't get thrown in jail. Thank you to all our fine guests. They included John Nichols from The Nation, friend of ours. Now stick around. Native Roots Radio and the Paul Revere Show with WEC Commissioner Mark Thompson.